Okay, this is Deb again. I think I have this figured out. But I will tell you that, it's right, the camera is right in front of me on this little bouncy holder deal, and you're going to hear me breathing. So, um, be prepared for that. So, I want to show you how to do ruffles. Remember this deal. You can do straight stitch, you can do zigzag, whichever you prefer. You're going to get started, and you're just going to push it just like this. And when you do it, this I don't know if you remember this or not, but this was the paper that I crumpled up and put the distress ink on. I just cut it in half, so I've got 2 strips. So when you're doing it, just do it in a chain like you would your piecing. Just like this. And I'm not going to do a lot because, as we know, I don't have a lot of time on here. Although I did ask an alarm to be set. So, okay, so that's the paper ribbon. You would do it the very same way if it were fabric. I want to show you how to do small clusters that are sewn. You don't necessarily have to sew your cut clusters, but this is how you're going to sew it. So you've got 3 different layers. It could all be paper, it could all be fabric, it could all be lace. In this case, I've got a little bit of all 3 going on. So I'm just going to keep right on sewing. Sink my needle, lift that up, make sure that gets under there good. Just keep right on sewing. This is book page from that quilt, from one of those quilt books. Okay, we've got this one, a layer of fabric, and see it's wider and longer. Here's a piece of the my inspiration book that I just saved. Here's that piece in the last video that I said, "Ooh, let's save that." Well, there it is, or fixing to use it. Here's another one. So it's wider still. Again, that's a piece of my inspiration book, quilt book. This is a smaller piece of paper. You could put it this way, this way. It could even hang off. These could be all wonky. You could also do it in straight stitch. Okay, so that's how you sew those. You'll see here, let me finish this off. Here's one that I did, and I didn't sew it in the center. I sewed it on the side, on the edge. And I did it like that so that I could use it in this little pot, sticking up in this little pot. So this is one of the paper applique templates. I have sewn around it and put this little, so I took a piece of this that's been sewn and I glued it there, and then I'll glue it down. You actually could, when you go to glue it down, you could glue it down in this part, leave this part open, and it could be a little pocket. Or you could glue it down all here and leave this open, and that could be a little pocket. You could put pencils and pins and, you know, or little tiny scissors or, oh gosh, you know, whatever. You could put, you know, put cute little things in there. Okay, here's another idea. A lot of these things I sewed because of my time limitation. This is one of the things that I cut out of my inspiration book. And you can see that I added a piece of lace to the bottom. Since the lampshade was lacy, I put a little piece of lace on there. So that's kind of cute. Move all these things. I'll show you all the things that I sewed with, or that I sewed with my onto my cover. So I went to Joann and I bought thread, black thread, because I wasn't happy with that other thread. I mean, the thread's good. I just wanted a darker color. So let me show you what I did. So you can see there's the gray, and I just did. So if the gray was straight, I did zigzag in the black, just so that it would look differently. So that's what it looks like from the inside. That's what it looks like from the outside. Really can't see it that much difference on the outside, but overall I wanted them to all be stitched. Okay, so here's my next page in my signature. This is the pattern page. I sewed around this first one. I sewed around it these three sides, because remember, this is going to be a pocket up here. Okay, over here I sewed this part because this is a pocket. And over here I sewed this part because there's a fold here, and this part is a pocket. Okay, so that's my next page. Okay, this page, all I did was sew all the way around it, and I sewed some mustard colored fabric as a, I sewed it directly, just like I showed you how to do. I sewed it directly onto this paper. Okay, so there's that page. This page, the only thing I did was sew this little bit here of this vintage fabric. And that's what it looks like from that side. Okay. Next page is this one. And remember, I told you that I had this place marker here because I knew I wanted to sew this piece here as a pocket. So I sewed all the way around it, and I just sewed this pocket closed here and here, and then I sewed straight stitch there. Okay, that's done. Next page is this one. Okay, no sewing on that. Chose not to do any sewing on that one. This one is a single page, and you'll notice that what I did was I went around everything. I went around the whole perimeter twice. This is called a messy stitch, where you just sew and sew over it. You can do it twice, 3 times, 4 times. You can sew around it as many times as you want to do that messy stitch. This is the page that we made earlier. I've done nothing different to it. Okay. This is pattern paper. I've done nothing to it. Okay, this is my center page. You remember it was a piece, it's this yellow paper. Okay. It's very soft. So this is what you would do. This is a good technique. If you have vintage paper that is very soft, it tears very easily, here is a technique that you can use for that. Okay, I wanted to use it in the center, and this is what I wanted there. So, as you know, if you look at the back side of this, you're going to see the embroidery. Well, I didn't want to see that. So I chose to use this yellow paper, which is very soft, to go onto the back so that you could not see the embroidery from the back side. I have this glued on here. So this embroidery piece is glued on there, okay? Then I took little pieces of fabric, and I just stitched those on there in little tab-like things. Then I took more pattern paper, and I sewed a stitch directly onto, or a ruffle directly onto this. Okay, because this yellow paper is very soft, I felt like there was the possibility at the center that it may be at risk of tearing. So I took this piece of fabric and I glued it to the center. So this is a technique that you could use when you want to reinforce your vintage paper. I just used glue stick. I've used glue stick on all these. Everything that I've done so far, I've used glue stick or sewn. So this is what I have so far. We're still not ready to stitch everything in the center yet, because, you know, we're just not there yet. We're getting very close, though. We're getting very close to that. So this is your homework. Make sure that you've got all your little templates cut out. If you want to sew around them, sew around them. If you want to put some frou-frou on there, put some frou-frou on there. Same thing for these. You know, maybe you just want to put a hunk of lace on something. I could have put a hunk of lace on here. That would have been cute. Cut you some fabric ruffle, or sew you some fabric ruffles and some paper ruffles, and get those ready. Okay, sew you some clusters. And even if you don't use as many clusters as you have made in this project, clusters come in handy for every book that you will do. Once you get your cluster made like this, and you can make more than 3 layers. Typically, it is an odd number, so 3, 5, whatever, like that. So, but something that you could add to this once you're ready to glue it down or whatever, or you could actually sew a button on here, hand sew a button on here, or put if it were a book that bling looked good on, you could adhere some bling to it. You could take a rusty safety pin. I don't have any of those right here, but you could attach those on there. Something like that. Remember the, I wish I had that here right this moment, but remember that flat thimble. That flat thimble would look good on there. So make the base layered clusters, and then from there you can add more things to it. That's what I'm telling you. So that's your homework. Clusters, paper and fabric ruffles. Have your templates cut out into the you'll cut them out of the template material fabric not fabric, the heavyweight cardstock. Then whatever, if it's book page or whatever it is that you're going to put in decorative paper that you're going to want to cut them out of, go ahead and cut them out of the decorative paper. If you want to sew around them, sew around them. You want to add some, bling that you sew, go ahead and do that, because you can always glue your bling afterwards. You just won't be able to sew it. Any of your sewing, go ahead and start getting that done. If you want to sew your pages, by now you should pretty much know what your pages are going to look like and how many you're going to have. Just remember that the more pages you have, the more opportunities that you have for decorating them. However, it can also be very overwhelming if you've got a lot of pages and you're like, holy smokes, how am I going to decorate all these? Because sometimes it's too many. So, keep that in mind as well. Since you're kind of new to this, you may not want to do this many pages. I will show you also later how to, after we've got this sewn in, after we've got the signature sewn in, I will show you how to add more pages. So that if you come across something and say, dang on it, I wish I'd have put that in there. Well, I'll show you how to do that. So, so that's also part of your homework, is getting your pages together and getting the edges or the pocket, if you like these kind of things, to get those all sewn up. And some of you have been sharing your stash selections on the Facebook group. That is awesome. I love seeing that. I love seeing everybody's ephemera and all of their choices and all the things. Isn't it fun to to go through your stuff and pick all those things out? I just love doing that. So, and you'll come across something and you think, oh my gosh, I didn't even remember I had that. Or as you're going through it, you're like, this would be perfect for this. And who would have thought that I would ever use it for anything? So, but, it's, it's amazing what we have in our stash, isn't it? So anyway, that's your homework, and that's all for this video. I'm trying to think what the next video is going to be. I don't have my paper here with me, and so I can't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter because I might decide to do 4 other videos in between there. I was only going to do, 5, and I'm already up to, I probably have already done more than 5 because I'm so limited on my time. So, but hey, you know what I'm just noticing here? I can see how many minutes I've been recording. Oh my gosh. It is obvious that I'm an absolute novice. I'm at 18 minutes and 49 seconds. So there you go. I'm not even up to my 30 minutes yet. So anyway, that's all I have for you. If you've got any questions, hit me on Facebook and I'll talk to you later. See ya.